Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 531 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Chad Polley. If you want to hear how he gets chiropractic students to the next level, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. They have Chad Polley coming on. It's episode 531. Can you guys believe that? I can, because I've done every single one of these. Absolutely love what we do over here. And before we get into this episode, Chad and I were just catching up before we hit the go live button. But I have to tell people the big why before we get into Chad's story. And I think that the big why is really important to our nation as a whole. And the big why starts with this. Freedom of speech, the First Amendment. We're going way back in time, but these things really matter. And I saw how a lot of people were shadow banned and discredited and pushed down and suppressed. And we've never censored anyone on this show, which I think is really important for us to say, because freedom of speech really matters to us as a platform. And as our audience gets to know us, we're very much patriots, and we believe in freedom of speech. We believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. Those are things that are near and dear to me. They're really important for families to be able to make decisions on their health choices, what they decide. So yeah, those things are really, really, really the front end of our big why. But then as we get more philosophical, we do this show to protect BJ Palmer's sacred trust. And if people don't know what that is, go to your favorite search engine right now and look for BJ Palmer's last words, or go for and look for BJ Palmer's sacred trust. You're going to learn so much more about chiropractic than you previously did. Even if you're a chiropractor and you've never read BJ Palmer's last words and what it means to be a chiropractor and know what the sacred trust is, it's so important. We do support subluxation-based chiropractic. It's a big word, but I think it's fundamental to the lexicon and the languaging of this profession. And then we go into the last bit of the intro, and that is we also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical is adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, there's a lot we're talking about before, and I love those pre-interview chats. Like, I should sell those. That's where all the goods are when I have those when nobody's on camera and we start talking. But that's when people share like the best stuff, because there's a safe space to talk shop and talk about whatever's going on. But
well, Jim, I want to first say I appreciate you talking to the intro and freedom of speech. And sometimes we take that for granted. And we're filming today on June 6th. It's the 79th anniversary of D-Day. And I don't think there's a day that embodies the idea that freedom isn't free. And I had the opportunity to walk those beaches 4 years ago on the 75th anniversary. In fact, I get goosebumps now just thinking about it. And walking those beaches and getting an opportunity to climb the bluffs and sit there in a German pillbox in a bunker and look down on that beach and see the sight lines of no cover, no nothing. And man, we just did not give up. We kept, we were resolved. We knew what our mission was, and we prevailed. And So again, I want to thank you for bringing those things up, and just, a subtle reminder, not so subtle, that, freedom isn't free. And there are a number of people that came before us that made the ultimate sacrifice so that you and I get the opportunity to hang out and do a cool ass podcast.
The sentiment's real. And from reading your bio, I know that you grew up in a military family.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot that people have done to serve our country and to be able to make it to where we can open up our front doors without fear.
That's exactly right.
And I think that even the bigger conversation is making sure that families are safe.
Right.
And that's, the impetus of, protecting the nation, but also it's for like making sure that, parents can make good decisions for how they raise their children.
Yep.
That's America.
Yep.
Like I'm sorry, but the last couple of years have been a huge strain, energetically on so many people, even wealthy people, but the people that don't have much, they've been at the mercy of the people that make decisions for them. And I just want people to know that chiropractors always give, love, and serve. And you have the ability to come into any chiropractic office, no matter where it is, and get an exam, get your spine checked for subluxation. And if necessary, a chiropractor will talk to you about adjusting you. And I think that there's nothing greater than a chiropractic lifestyle. I've talked time and time again that I've never met anybody that got a chiropractic lifestyle, its life got worse.
Right.
But I have met people that fell into the pill mill and went the opposite direction. Sure. And took more drugs and had more surgeries, and they were limited forever.
Sure.
So that's a big part of the show, is to let people know that they do have an option, and chiropractic does save people's lives, whether they understand that or not. But every spine that's under care is one spine that's healthier, and it's a healthier community, and it's a healthier population. So yeah, man, it's a great, we're kicking this off the right way, Dr. Chad. So let's go into you a little bit as the practitioner. And you said that you've been doing your professional chiropractor for the past 23 years.
Yep.
But what led up to that decision to become a chiropractor?
Well, it's funny. I don't have maybe that story where, I was saved or, by a chiropractor when I was told that, I had no other choices. I was at Florida State University. I was getting a biology degree and a chemistry minor, on track to do something in healthcare. And where I thought I was going to go with was orthodontia. I wanted to be an orthodontist. I had braces. My uncle was an orthodontist, and I liked that idea. And one night I'm sitting with my wife's father. We weren't married at the time. And we're having a beer, and he said, "You know what? I really think that you should go into chiropractic." And I really had no idea, really no background in chiropractic, right? We were a military family. All we really knew was allopathic medicine. And he was an optometrist by training and by trade, but he was doing, eye movements and brain mapping and really taking it from a holistic space. And he was really intuitive. And so I started to explore it, and I ended up going to school, having never been adjusted. And that's probably pretty atypical, right? That's 1996. I got to school, and actually took some time off of school. There was a time where I wasn't sure if I really wanted to pursue it. My first 2 quarters at Life, to be perfectly honest with you, were a little tough, because it was a completely different paradigm than I had been exposed to my entire life. The Olympics happened to be, that summer. I needed to have reconstructive surgery on my shoulder. So I wanted to take some time and just make sure, okay, is this where I'm supposed to be? And had the surgery and sat down with some friends that I'd met at school, and just had some good conversations about, chiropractic and philosophy, and just kind of dug a little deeper. And when I made the decision, I'm going back, and now I'm going full throttle. And really where it came about was even a year after that, when I got into outpatient clinic. Life, at least at the time, you were responsible for getting your own patients, right? Just like the real world. You weren't hanging out a clinic and having people come in or had relationships now like some schools do with the VA, which I think is awesome. You had to go out and get your own. And at the time I was working in restaurants and bars, so it's pretty easy for me to grab all the serving staff and get them in. But the one patient that changed everything was actually my brother. He's a couple years younger than I am. He's got a genetic condition called spinal muscle atrophy. It's a neurological disorder that affects the anterior horn cell. So it's a lower motor neuron lesion, just like a subluxation is, right? The problem is not all the messages coming down from the brain could leave the spinal cord and then innervate his muscles. So, he was weak. He was in a wheelchair. And it's a progressive type of disorder. We started seeing him 3 times a week, and it was pretty incredible, the changes that we were able to make in pretty short order. Not just range of motion, but strength, being able for him to move around much easier, whether it's transitioning from his wheelchair into a car seat or, under the commode. These things that were now being done with much more ease, which gave him something independence that sometimes he had to rely on other people for. And, he'd never been adjusted before. And in fact, no one had ever talked to us about chiropractic before. Not one single person is that got a neurological condition, and no one talked about how important it was to keep his spine healthy and to check for subluxation. So, when I got to see those chances and really experience them, and not just that it was a patient, but more importantly, it was my brother and a family member, that really kind of got me, locked and loaded in terms of, okay, here's what I'm doing. Here's my purpose. Go.
Yeah. Certainty comes from a lot of different perspectives when we get faced with something like that. And sometimes somebody near and dear to us can be our number one catalyst. That doesn't have to be your football injury or your car crash or your fall, your slip. Sometimes it's why we rise up is because of someone else. And I think that's really a cool story, man. And people don't like, if people knew like most of the things that are going on with their like downstream health, if they just knew that getting adjusted like gave better human performance and adaptability and quality of life, and all the activities of daily living as the insurance companies look for, like if you can bring people back to like quality of life quotient, every adjustment's worth every dollar, every time, at every clinic, and I think that that's the big story. Is so many times people don't realize that, like, if somebody says, hey, you have something neurological, it's not a pill, a potion, or a lotion that's going to give you like long-term effect. Like, sure, take that stuff, whatever. But like my good friend Eric Plasker always say, chiropractic first, chiropractic second, chiropractic third, chiropractic and drugs fourth, chiropractic and drugs or surgery fifth, and whatever intervention you're doing, just make sure you keep chiropractic along with it.
Sure.
And I think that that's the most important thing for like the rehabilitative state of people is they'll stop doing this. They're like, oh, my doctor told me not to go to you guys anymore. Like, well, that's not a good idea.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And I think the other cool thing is you guys had to go get your own patients.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't go hunting in my fridge.
Right. Those were the days.
So what did you do? What did you do to go get people to come see you in patient clinic or student clinic?
Well, I was pretty fortunate with where I worked. Again, I bartended and waited tables, through college and then through chiropractic school. So, I had a captive audience. They knew what I did. I'd worked there through actually even before I started to go to school there. So, they knew me. I had a great rapport with everyone. And I mean, let's face it, servers, bang themselves up, bartenders bang themselves up. One point you're going to have neck issues, back issues. And, so that was, it was a little easier, I think, for me simply because of the situation that I was in. But I knew people that struggled with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in the service industry before the service industry.
exactly.
So while we're on this topic of building the student practice, what were some things that you did successfully to grow your private practice over the past 23 years that you really enjoyed doing? Not things that you loathed doing, but things that worked that you enjoyed.
Well, I mean, I enjoy people, and I think building it around the patient experience is really important. We're not. I was going to say a typical doctor, but I mean that in a positive way, right? You don't walk into my office and there's someone sitting behind a glass panel, asking you for your ID and your insurance card. We want to make this an experience. We come out from behind the front desk, we shake their hand, we call them by name, and we sit down and we'll help them through the paperwork. We give them an office tour. We let them see what we're all about. And so just from day one, we want to let them know that, this is a place that you can come. It's where we serve you with empathy, where we actually take the time, to listen. And my patients know, hey, if I'm running late because I was with a new patient exam, no one gives me any grief about it because they know that I took that same amount of time. And sometimes the girls at the front desk are ringing me, ding, 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 ding. And I know that means I've got people stacked up there. But I'm not leaving that exam room. I'm not leaving that patient until I know that we've addressed every single one of their concerns. So I think of all the things in 20 some odd years, really making it about the patient, and what they experience while you're in your office is one of the best, tried and true. It'll never go out of style. You can't be blocked. You can't have white hats or black hats keep you from your. I mean, all this is in house. You get to control it, and I think it's been the most rewarding thing over 2 decades in terms of the way we bring people in and love on them when they're there.
Well, I think to tie it up with the awesome message is you built your practice out of personal relationships, whether you're a student or you're in private practice.
Yep. That's
And
exactly right.
people don't. There's an old cliche saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, or something. Or they
Yeah.
don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. But I think it's true, man. And I think that any chiropractor that I've interviewed over the past 5.5 years, the people that have the most like happy practices, it's not the amount of people that they see. It's the amount of people that they have built relationships with throughout that time.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's the biggest reward when you are a caregiver and a chiropractor and a give, love, serve type profession. I think that when you do build that type of like relationship, you become a referral based practice.
Absolutely.
And everybody's going to tell people about how awesome Dr. Chad was and how he spent time with me and he talked to me about XYZ. And he, didn't only assess what's going on with my pain, but he talked to me about what's going on with my mindset, what's going on with what I'm eating. There's a lot that goes into the person besides the pain model. So personal stuff, Dr. Chad, what do you do personally to take care of yourself so other people can get the best care from you?
Well, I blew a disc out back in 2018, and I was exercising. I was doing deadlifts. I knew I should have done that last set, and I did it anyways. And yeah, not good. And I decided to double down and take my daughter to Disney that night, walk 6 or 7 miles and ride a bunch of roller coasters. So again, I'm a glutton for punishment, I suppose. So my running days are over, but I do walk at least 3 miles, 5 to 6 days a week. I do some resistance training. I eat, as healthy as I can. I'm not going to tell you that I'm 100% clean, because guess what? I live in Tampa. I like Cuban sandwiches and I like pizza, right? But I make sure that's the, not the rule, but kind of the exception. We take a regiment of vitamins and supplements every day to keep our health up, to keep our immunity strong. So and meditation. So I really try to, it's the old eat well, think well, move well model. And I'm not
Love
getting
it.
here. I'm 51 years old, and I'm trying to think ahead 48 years in terms of that should be about the age. No, I'm sorry, 42 years. That should be about the age that my grandchildren will be walking across the stage in high school, and I've made a commitment to be physically and mentally there for that graduation. So I'm trying to prepare myself in advance of that now.
Well, I call that the North Star.
Yep.
And having that perspective on the future and having that guidance and that segue to like excellence for yourself. Like my whole thing is I don't want to be a liability to people.
Mm-hmm, sure.
I don't want to have some type of like disability where people have to look after me. And that's why, I work out twice a day and live the way that I do and follow the chiropractic lifestyle. But I think that it's a really strategic way for you to go into the future. So I'm excited to watch what happens from now on. So let's talk about community again. Chiropractors building relationships. I know that they do a lot to support their local communities. Is there anything that you do or that you would recommend to young docs to do?
Get involved with a service organization. Our clinic over the years has really supported hyper local charities, meaning I know that they are having a direct effect on the people that I serve. And that's not that there aren't national charities or even statewide charities that aren't fantastic and are very worthy. In fact, one organization I'll talk about here in just a minute that really allows me to give back to the military community and to the veterans. But recently, within the last year or so, I joined a Rotary Club. This particular Rotary Club is focused hyper local on people and on foundations in our immediate area. We do a number of fundraising events, some really cool, actually, fundraising events, and we're able to raise close to $150,000 every year that we're able to give back. And I look at, what I'm able to do by joining a club like that versus what I was able to do just on my own in terms of, giving back. And I can leverage that. I can take the same amount that I was doing and leverage that with a service organization. And now the growth just and what we're able to give back just kind of explodes. So doesn't have to be the Rotary, but joining a service organization that has a direct impact on your local community, I think is a great way to give back. Again, it could be a church organization, but I think that can be a really important thing for you to do.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle. Yeah, I'm looking up a quote right now, but I wish I had the guy that Joe Rogan has. I wish I had my own guy in the background looking stuff up for me. If you want to, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to, if you want to go far, go together. And I think that's really what you just said.
Yep.
And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And there is strengths in numbers. And one of my mentors that taught me how to podcast would always tell me that we're more alike than we are different. And that's his sentiment towards the chiropractic profession. And I think that when you think about when we all have a penchant to give and have something to support and contribute to something bigger than ourselves, if you were to survey everybody, they would all say, yeah, I want to do that.
Right.
And most people just don't see the impact. So I think it's really cool that you're doing that on a hyper local status. And it's nice to support stuff in your backyard. I think it's really cool.
Well, there was we got an opportunity about 10, 11 years ago to get involved. This is a national organization, but we deal with the local chapter here. It's called Honor Flight. And Honor Flight was created to get World War II vets up to the DC area so they can see their World War II memorial for the first time. This is done at absolutely no cost to the vet. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, the plane was filled with World War II vets as they are unfortunately passing away. We've invited Korean War vets and now Vietnam vets. But it's incredible because you are assigned to a vet. You are their guardian, and you spend the entire day with them. Wow. You fly up to DC, and we've done everything from going to the Iwo Jima Memorial or the Air Force Memorial. We've been to Arlington. We always see the Lincoln Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, and the Vietnam War Memorial, along with the World War II Memorial. And, the stories that these guys and gals can tell, it's just absolutely incredible. And so we've been involved with that for quite some time. Again, hyper local because these are guys and gals that are living here, but the nationwide mission of Honor Flight is absolutely incredible. And if you have any interest in helping to support past veterans and getting to sit next to living history for an entire day, I'd encourage you to see if there's a local chapter and maybe if you can get involved that way too.
Wow. That's a big takeaway for me because I think that once again, everybody wants to contribute to something, and patriotism it's something we have to prop up again. They kind of put it in the back closet now. But we should talk about things like this that matter. Actually, there's a great chiropractor named Timothy Novelli. He created something called the Patriot Project.
Okay.
Where chiropractors nationwide now provide gratis care to a handful of veterans or active military people at their clinics. And it's a service mission local. And chiropractors started this, and every November he does something in Canton, Ohio called the Patriot Ball, where he brings out all these veterans and all their families, and he has a huge party for people. But it's done by a chiropractor, which I think is really, really powerful. So Honor Flight and Patriot Project, really cool things that chiropractors can get involved with.
Yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. That would be something I would be absolutely open to having in our office.
Yeah. I mean, the second film that we did called Project Patient, we track a couple patients that started with the Patriot Project. And the feature case in our movie is a Staff Sergeant Shiloh Harris, who's blown up in a Humvee and 70% of his body was burned. And chiropractic saved his life. And we share that whole story. So there's definitely pull at your heartstrings, like how chiropractic saved this guy from killing himself. And now he's got a beautiful woman in his life and he's not on all these drugs. And I mean, you can only do so much with the guy that's 70% scarred from burns, but he says, chiropractic's the only thing that stopped me from committing suicide.
It's powerful.
So yeah, projectpatientthemovie.com. You guys can go watch it. But let's get into the question set again, and uh, let's talk about your vision of where you see this profession going. I know on the question set it says 20 years, but you could talk 1 year, you can talk 5 years, you can talk 10 years. Like, what do you see chiropractic going towards?
We talked a little bit about this, before we hopped on live, and unfortunately, I have a little bit more of a pessimistic view, and I love your optimism. I just, I don't think things have changed a whole lot in 23 years, not within our profession. And the problem, I think, is that there's just a tremendous amount of infighting. If we can't get that resolved, and we can't break down some of those barriers, I'm not sure if things will be much different in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, as much as I'd like that to change. So, again, I know that's a little pessimistic, but unfortunately, I think that sometimes our biggest enemies in our profession is ourselves, right? Sometimes I don't think we can get out of our own way. And I love your perspective, and I know you shared that with me, beforehand. If you want to share that, so everyone's on the same page. But that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not sure in the current climate, if things don't move on, that we're going to move on.
Yeah, I think it's a sobering approach to a kind of a drunk status. I think that the profession kind of bumbles around into each other, and why'd you hit me? Why'd you bump into me? And if we could just like sober it up a little bit with like mutual respect. And I'm a part of this group called the Chiropractic Futures Group, and it's I think really helping structure the profession in a really positive way. But I also think that there is a such thing as unity through diversity. Like I've told people, like if I go to 10 chiropractic offices, every chiropractor is going to adjust me differently. They're going to analyze my subluxations differently. Some will do x-rays, some won't do x-rays. So there's no real, like, you never know what you're going to get when you show up to a DC's office. Right. So when there's that difference of artistic expression within the profession, you're going to get a difference in receiving of other person's style. So that's the big thing, is if people could just start to understand that everybody in chiropractic does things a little bit different, and they're probably not ever going to do it like you. That's the best thing for people to in the profession start to understand at that baseline level of acceptance for another chiropractor and what they do as a doctor. Like, you can't dictate the way somebody else is going to become a doctor.
Correct.
Like, they're going to take care of people how they see fit. That's their license to heal. And I think that that's the part where chiropractors have to start looking in the mirror a little bit more and say, do I want that? Damn, I don't want that either. So I think that that's where we come to a place where the relationship with identity starts to improve. And yeah, do I think that it's going to take some time for that to like course correct? Yeah, I mean, you just have to have, I guess, better leaders. And that's where it all starts, is it starts with us. And that's what I said, right? Like, it starts with me. It starts with me to take down the division of techniques and the divisions of schools and the division of coaching groups. Like what we've done with Chiro Hustle is very unique. We've broken down every barrier and border within the chiropractic profession, and we've invited everybody in. And I think that that's what we really have to get back to, is that the profession is quite the same. It's just the practitioners have different artistic approach.
Well, and you just nailed it. I mean, if we can get to the point where we can say, okay, I might not understand or agree with the approach, but you have the patient's best interest in mind, right? If we can all agree that whatever we're doing that is the first and foremost behind our actions and behind our philosophy, okay, right? Now we can have conversations. And I would love to see more of that.
Well, the Chiropractic Futures tagline is unity without uniformity.
There you go.
And I think that that's once again, a sobering concept to a bunch of drunk ego people as people start to sort themselves out from internal. And they're like, yeah, I don't have to be like, a TRT office, or I don't have to be a Gonstead clinic, or I don't have to be whatever technique. I can be respected doing Pinnacle. I can be respected doing chiropractic biophysics. I can be respected, and everybody else, I respect them back. It's an honor system almost. Like we have to go back to like almost like martial arts. Is you have to respect people for their practice of their art.
Right, exactly.
Moving on, heroes. You talked about coming from a military family, but are there any chiropractic heroes that helped you become the person that you are today?
Um, no, when I first thought of hero, honestly, the first person I thought of was my granddad.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he he lied about his age, and joined the Navy at 16 years old so he could get into World War II. So he was a little younger, and when I was born, he was only in his mid 40s, and man, the guy was like Superman to me. I mean, the guy, he could literally fix jet engines. He could fix cars. He could turn around and birth a calf of a cow that was on the farm. I mean, the guy was, he was MacGyver before MacGyver. He handed him some WD-40 and some duct tape, and he could damn near fix, anything. And so, it was, there's a picture of my grandmother and my granddad, and they look like movie stars. I mean, he was just larger than life. And he did a lot of things well. The one thing he didn't do too well was, he didn't take good care of himself. And he let diabetes and some other health concerns, kind of get out of control a little bit. But the lessons that I learned from him, um, uh, I still think about him almost every day. I'm fortunate enough that I still have his wife, my grandmother, is still alive, which is awesome. But yeah, when I first saw the hero, that's what I thought of. I guess in the chiropractic space, one person that I really respect, um, because I like his approach of keeping things evidence-based, which can sometimes be a negative term, but still embodies the philosophy of chiropractic to the nth degree, the holism, the vitalism, and that's James Chestnut. I like his mission. Um, I like his model of subluxation. In my office, if I was in my office right now, you'd see a huge whiteboard, with subluxation and all the neural components of it. And I have conversations with my patients about that. I'm not quite sure why 40% of our field doesn't believe in subluxation. Like that boggles my mind, what you do every day if you get up and you don't believe in the subluxation complex. Like what are you doing? I don't know what you could possibly be doing. And so I really enjoyed reading his stuff and reading his research, and seeing the way that he can marry, sometimes those opposing viewpoints. So, maybe not a hero per se, but someone I respect immensely in this field.
Yeah. I mean, it takes all of us, right? I had this analogy earlier about chiropractic being like an airplane. Like you need certain people to make the runway. You need certain people to do air traffic control. You need certain people to fly it. You need certain people to be passengers. You need certain people to, dictate safety while on it. Like you have to have like a whole team of people. And I think that that's what I've learned most about asking that question is there's so many Sherpas out there that have gotten people to the top of their own mountains
Mm-hmm.
and have gotten people to launch and to believe in what they're doing. And it is a team. It's a huge team. And if people don't think that they're on the chiropractic team and there's 60,000 strong of you, that they need to get woke up a little bit and know that there's only 60,000 of you and it's a small team. And we have to start playing together in order to win this big game.
Absolutely.
I just gave a talk 2 weekends ago or a weekend ago down in Colorado Springs. And I gave the analogy of chiropractic being on the chessboard of medical health freedom. And we're really the only thing that separates medical tyranny and checkmate when it comes to the free world is the chiropractic profession.
Mm-hmm.
The chiropractic profession is the only thing that stands out there that, hasn't been swallowed up by big pharma and by that agenda. Everything else is an outside in perspective. Chiropractors still believe that the body heals from inside out. We believe that the body needs nothing extra in it, simply needs no interference. Once it gets cleared, the body is a self-healing organism. And the other part that doesn't believe in subluxation, they're mechanistic.
Right.
That they treat the body like a machine. Well, the body isn't a machine, it's organic matter. If I cut my finger right now, I don't have to look at it and shout out and tell it to heal. No, it heals on its own because innate's always on the job. And I think that that's a part where we have to remind the people that are subluxation deniers that the profession was never founded upon that.
Right.
And
well, again, that's what we just talked about before. I mean, uniting and getting groups like that together and moving the profession, forward, agreeing to disagree. But it's, again, that's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah. And I think that in a grown-up manner, this might not be popular and it might not ever be something people would appreciate, but pull out the boxing gloves, have a good scrap, and quit doing it behind closed doors. And if you're going to,
watch it.
Yeah. I mean, if people knew that there's going to be a real fight on their hands by their decisions that they made, they wouldn't make them.
One would hope.
Well, I posted the other day, something about Mike Tyson's quote of, everybody thinks it's good and fine until they get punched in the mouth.
Yep.
And I think that it's true. And if people were to be a little bit infringement of, poor decision making, people would make different decisions. Nobody has a flinch response anymore.
Right.
So tying up the conversation today with you, Dr. Chad, close us out with a miracle story, something that you've seen over the past 23 years that gives people a good takeaway.
Oh, a good miracle story. Well, I mean, we're really blessed. If you've been practicing any amount of time, you've seen miracles. I've seen a number of women that were told they would never have kids, and guess what? Next thing you know, boom, they're pregnant. My brother is just such a strong, powerful story as well. I'll tell you a story of when I first got into practice, and literally I'd been in practice maybe 3 months, and a gentleman came in. He was complaining of low back pain, and so we took an X-ray, and of course this is back in the day where I was in some hot closet with a red lamp. There was no digital processing then, right? Mm-hmm. And you had to pray you didn't move. You had to pray you put the right KVP and MAN in there. And so I developed the X-ray, and I look at it, and I knew right away he had prostate cancer. Bright white L5 vertebra. And I've been in practice. I'm in my late 20s, and I got to go out and tell this 70-some-year-old guy he's got cancer. So, I went out there and I explained what was going on, that I wanted him to get to his primary ASAP, but that I was going to continue to adjust him, because the finding on the X-ray was a different finding than the subluxation that I had also obviously uncovered. He ended up having to get surgery. But he was a patient with me for a long, long time because he understood that, yeah, maybe that was also causing my back pain, but I also know I've got subluxation. I also know that I need to have my spine adjusted. And, yeah, he was with me for a really long time. And he was obviously very, very thankful because at first he didn't want to get the x-ray. No, doc, I just need an adjustment. So, so that was really kind of cool, especially, being in practice just such a short time.
Yeah, I think that this gives everybody hope, and chiropractors are hope dealers, not dope dealers.
True.
And chiropractic does save people's lives. And as cliche as it might sound, is it gives people life to your years and years to their life.
Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, man. And there's a lot to be said about these little one-liner things that I say all the time. Is if people just went down and wrote them, they would probably have a better understanding of what chiropractic really is.
It's funny, Jim. That's I've been saying that for quite some time. That's my tagline that I use. That it's not the years in your life; it's the life in your years. Right?
Amen.
Love it.
Well, that's a good way to close out our show today. Are there any resources that you like to share with our audience today, or if people want to reach out to you, where can we send them to?
Well, I know we talked about. I know you've got some students that listen. I've been teaching the board review for national boards now for longer than I've actually been practicing. So I specialize in the Part 1 review. They can look it up online. It's polleyboardreviews.com. If they have any questions, or they can reach out to me directly, and I can maybe get them some resources or some direction, or anything I can do to help the profession. And that's why I taught for as long as I did. When you're one guy, you can only see so many people in a given week, in a given month, in a given year. But when I can help someone pass their boards and they can become licensed, now it's a magnifying effect. It's exponential. And maybe there'll be someone that will tell someone whose child has a neurological condition and needs to get their spine checked but didn't even know it. Maybe one of them will say, "Hey, have you ever considered chiropractic?" And then they can change someone's life. So,
well, that's the miracle, and that's the wrap. I appreciate you being episode 531 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I want you to have an awesome rest of your evening down there in Central Florida.
Thanks, Jim.
Coastal Florida, right?
Yep.
Coastal Florida.
There you go.
And with that being said, I just let everybody know, like I always do, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.